Oh god, not again. Please, somebody make it stop.
How is it not obvious at this point that this franchise has been so utterly ruined over the years that it's basically been reduced to being like a dead horse that's been flogged on the ground? Dear, oh dear. The Terminator franchise could possibly be returning again. Why? I guess the lesson from the four lackluster sequels just hasn't been learned. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines wasn't awful in my view, but it had way too much humour, it didn't take itself seriously enough, and it didn't offer anything particularly new when compared to Terminator 2. I actually grew to quite like Terminator Salvation as a post-apocalyptic sci-fi action movie, as a standalone film. But as a Terminator movie, it didn't measure up to the first two films. Genesis was just awful, retconning the first film, changing the timeline, turning John Connor into a villain. What a terrible idea. Dark Fate was even worse. It was released in 2019. We had this androgynous female Terminator hybrid character, an older, bitter Sarah Connor, and young John Connor is brutally murdered in the beginning of the film and replaced with this petite female character as the future savior of mankind. She's transformed from this happy feminine character into the most unbelievable masculine tough chick. She's totally unconvincing as this tough action star, right? Dark Fate had a budget of over $185 million and made only $261 million or so at the box office. A complete box office failure. The franchise really was a two-film series, in my opinion. The original director's cut of Terminator 2 Judgment Day was the best way to conclude the franchise. The original ending wrapped things up nicely. No need for more stories in this universe. And I think the Sarah Connor Chronicles was an interesting alternate universe take as a kind of TV spin-off, separate from the movies and standing well enough on its own. But it seems that there's been this inability to leave the Terminator franchise alone. There's been this consistent attempt to produce another golden egg, to revive it and produce a sequel worthy of Terminator 2. And each of the four movies that have followed have been disappointments for one reason or another, and they've failed to live up to the cinematic greatness of the first two films. This lesson should have been learned after the lukewarm reviews for Genesis and definitely after Dark Fate. But apparently, not so much. This article is from Empire. James Cameron has more than a plan for future Terminator films, with one major difference. Ever since the Terminator hit the big screen 40 years ago, Hollywood has taken the time twisting Cyborg Saga and run with it. First, James Cameron sequelized his original film with the exemplary Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Then things got more tangled. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines continued the story without Cameron's involvement. Terminator Salvation was something of a reboot, delving into the war against the machines. Terminator Genesis attempted to remix the iconography of the series. All landed to underwhelming responses. Most recently, Terminator Dark Fate served as a direct sequel to Judgment Day and stalled at the box office. But while the big screen sequels have struggled to live up to the heights of the Terminator and T2, James Cameron is confident that there's a future for the franchise and knows what needs to be done to bring it roaring back to life. This is the moment when you jettison everything that is specific to the last 40 years of Terminator, but you live by those principles, he tells Empire in a major new interview celebrating 4 decades of the Terminator. That means moving away from the iconic original cast and telling new and different stories in the world of the AI apocalypse. You get too inside it and then you lose a new audience because the new audience care much less about that stuff than you think they do, the filmmaker explains. That's the danger, obviously, with Avatar as well, but I think we've proven that we have something for new audiences. It sounds to me like the idea of a very significant reboot, but I've never felt like there was a major interest among audiences for a new, fresh take on the Terminator saga. I think if you know you're not going to better the first two movies, which have become iconic at this stage, what's the point? So I'm hoping that the Terminator saga is never rebooted. I hope it never comes to pass. I think it had its day. It's Judgment Day. literally, and it was awesome. The story was probably never really conducive to becoming a major, long-running cinematic universe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.